begin with breaking news in the search for the 84-year-old mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie. An updated timeline from authorities provides a clearer picture of the moments before and after Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. On Saturday, January 31st, around 5:32 p.m., Nancy took an Uber to her daughter Annie's home for dinner. At 9:48 p.m., Annie's husband dropped Nancy off at home and Nancy's garage door opened. At 9:50 p.m., the garage door closed. Then at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnected. At 2:12 a.m., software detected someone on camera, but investigators can't review that video because Nancy didn't purchase a subscription and the company says it can't be recovered. At 2:28 a.m., Nancy's pacemaker app disconnected from her phone. Hours later, at 11:56 a.m., friends said Nancy didn't show up to church, and the family went to check on her. At 12:03, someone dialed 911, and at 12:15, the first deputies arrived on the scene. Now, CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti is live in front of Nancy Guthrie's home in Tucson, Arizona. Jonathan, I know that you were there for today's press conference. Tell us about the new details and what stands out to you right now.
And Juliet, the timeline that you just listed, a significant development from that press conference. For the first time, we're getting a better sense of when Nancy Guthrie was possibly abducted. Officials now saying possibly sometime just after 2 in the morning. And when you look closer at the timeline, what stands out to me, it appears that whoever entered that home could have been inside for as long as 40 minutes. Next to the blood that was found inside and outside of the home, the sheriff starting off the press conference saying that that blood was DNA tested. The results came back connecting it directly to Nancy Guthrie. At this point, no proof of life. I asked the sheriff if there were any signs that she was alive. He said, no, not at this hour. You mentioned the security cameras, and I just want to point that out one more time because it's significant here in terms of how it's hampering this investigation. They were not working, so we have no idea who entered, who left. And on top of that, this is a rural community. You can see the vegetation. It sets back homes about 20 feet or so. It is a veil, and that has meant all of the security cameras on these neighboring homes yielded nothing in terms of capturing any movement. All of this now as officials continue on day 5 to call on the public for their help, Juliet.
Yeah, the FBI and Sheriff's Department actively investigating an apparent ransom note containing a deadline, as we were saying, for 5 p.m. tonight. So what do we know about that, and why, of all the tips they've received, they're taking this one so seriously?
Yeah, officials have received more than 1,000 tips. They have tracked down many of them. This one could be the most significant. And today we got more confirmation about that ransom note, how it was received. They confirmed that it was originally emailed to a local television station Monday night. That station then forwarded it to the sheriff handing it over to FBI officials. They're still analyzing it to see if it is valid. But with that said, today they announced that they are now taking it seriously, that it is possible the author of that ransom note is connected to the crime scene. They would not tell us the details inside that note initially, and then I pressed during a Q&A portion of the press conference. Take a listen.
The ransom note that was sent out there, obviously every lead in this case we are taking extremely serious.
But not everyone is presented to the family. Why this one?
Because this was the ransom that came in and it had facts associated with a deadline, with a monetary value they were asking for. So at that point...
What were some of those facts, if you can, because there's been a lot of speculation, as you know, if you can set the record straight.
Yeah, the ransom itself, one talked about an Apple Watch and one talked about a floodlight. We're not going to go into specifics. It's very important that we keep this investigation moving forward, and we don't want to put more facts out there that others then can use to try to profit from this.
So there you have it. And CBS News has now confirmed hostage negotiators with the FBI are now here on the ground as this search continues. Day 5 going into day 6 without much evidence, Juliet.
Yeah, Jonathan, I was just looking at the timeline. At 2:28 a.m., Nancy's pacemaker app disconnected from her phone. That's not any indication of a health situation. That's more the distance away from her phone, correct?
That's correct. So that phone, that device, and we're also being told by officials it was also the Apple Watch. They're connected by Bluetooth through that implanted device. The minute that device is separated from that phone, that Apple Watch, we know that both of those devices were left at the home, the connection stops. So based on that, officials now believe it was at that time that Nancy Guthrie was abducted, was taken from her home, Juliet.
All right, we'll continue to follow this, Jonathan. Thank you so much for your reports. All right, meantime, the FBI also announced that they actually have arrested a California man who sent a fake ransom text to the Guthrie family asking for Bitcoin.
To those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation, we will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions. We have made one arrest related to an imposter ransom demand.
And we now know, according to court documents, that Savannah's sister Annie Guthrie and her husband Tommaso Cioni both separately received text messages from Derek Kalela saying, "Did you get the Bitcoin? We're waiting on our end for the transaction." So the new details about an apparent ransom note come after Savannah and her siblings posted a video to social media speaking directly to their mother's possible abductors. CBS News senior coordinating producer Anna Schecter explains that video was an attempt to establish a line of communication before today's deadline.
The press conference held by the Pima County Sheriff and the FBI today revealed new details about the timeline of what happened Saturday night into Sunday morning. And also, what was interesting is we learned a lot more about that ransom note that came into local TV stations and was passed to the FBI and shared with the Guthrie family. We learned that there is a 5 p.m. local time deadline today for the ransom to be paid. So that obviously puts the pressure on law enforcement, and also that must be devastating for the family to have this looming deadline without a way to communicate with Nancy Guthrie's captors. That is why they put out that video plea last night in apparently a desperate attempt to establish a line of communication. They want to have this communication, a negotiation aided by the FBI, but since the captors did not respond again to their response to the initial ransom note, they're in the dark right now. Now, of course, the FBI, they are using all of their forensic tools to try to track down the IP address, trace that email to an individual or a group of individuals. And I'm just talking about that, the email with the ransom note in it that was emailed to the local news stations and to TMZ. So they are working that, but that can take time. But I think that is a key element in this search. The other thing we talked about, we heard about at the press conference, was the doorbell camera that had actually been disabled and taken from the property. So whoever kidnapped Nancy Guthrie took that doorbell cam with them. The other thing that was interesting, the FBI 5 days later put out a reward, $50,000. I think from their perspective, they were hoping that might incentivize more people to call in more credible tips. But that's pretty much what we gleaned. It was actually more information than I was expecting to get at the press conference. Again, those new details with the timeline. The other thing that we learned, the sheriff said that essentially everybody remains a suspect because they haven't narrowed it down. So that is a really tough place to be at from the family's perspective and from the perspective of the investigators. Back to you.
Anna Schecter, thank you. We asked Michael Alcazar, adjunct professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and former NYPD hostage negotiator, to weigh in on this case. So here is what he had to say about the strategy behind the pleading message Savannah and her siblings posted to social media.
So I'm sure they already employed the help of negotiators. I'm sure they helped create that statement. If you listen to the statement, it's very carefully worded. It sounds like they made it sound like the family is willing to cooperate. They stress that this woman, the victim, is very important to them and that she has medical needs. So it sounds to me like that was help with a negotiator. So if there is a ransom note that they're vetting, they want to make sure that they know that they're willing to cooperate and they're open to communication.
We also asked Michael about the apparent ransom note in this case. We know it was sent to a local news station via email. Here's what Michael had to say about how investigators could trace it back to the sender.
Yeah, they're gonna look at that electronically. They have, I'm sure the FBI has like some kind of a computer crime squad that can vet the metadata, where that information is coming from, how it was delivered. Perhaps they can track the source. We want to make sure that the victim is safe. We want some kind of proof of life. We want to know what they want and how they want us to help facilitate if there's going to be an exchange. So we want to make them feel comfortable. We want to make sure that they know that the safety of this victim is our priority. And we're willing to have a conversation and keep them talking.
We'll continue to follow new developments right here on CBS News 24/7 should anything break in this hour.